The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Napick and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Napick.
And welcome to the show. It is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Napick. Thank you for joining us again on a super real estate adventure. Today, we have tremendous guests, as always. So if you're just joining us for the first time, thank you for trying us out here on the show. If you're a longtime listener, thank you again. And, of course, past shows are found at stewart.com/Houston. The serial number on this show is 362. So you can see and hear any of all the shows on stewart.com/Houston. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to even get a little nostalgic today, talk about Houston's growth and some past years here in Houston. A lot of fascinating things. Our first guest is Marilyn Arndt. She is the president of the Houston Independent Real Estate Brokers Association, and also her company is called Marilyn Arndt Properties. Marilyn, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, here you are. A lot to talk about. First of all, you are now the president here in 2021. How time flies. You're the president of HIREBA, it's called, Houston Independent Real Estate Brokers Association. So for someone that doesn't know what that is, let's tell them about HIREBA.
Well, HIREBA is, first of all, it started in 1994 or 95 by independent realtors. It was for the non-franchised real estate brokerage community. So most of us are small firms, maybe like boutique firms, and we meet a couple times a week, right? Wouldn't that be nice? A couple times a month, just for networking and education.
Well, and when we think about that, we hear that term certainly on this show. We've heard it a lot, boutique firms. Mm-hmm. When we think about Houston and the volume of realtors, then we think about the number of boutique firms, and there are quite a few. Give us an idea. Do you have an idea how many there are? I mean, there's thousands of realtors here in Houston.
There are thousands of realtors in Houston. And nationally, I know that the small firms far outnumber the large franchise firms as far as realtors and agents. So in Houston, I don't know. And HIREBA, we have like 95 to 100 independent realtors, brokers. And so I'm not really too sure how many throughout Houston, but a lot.
There's no doubt there's a lot. And it's always interesting, and really it's a good conversation perhaps for another show. But I always think and wonder why one real estate professional wants to be at this company versus that company, big, small. It's fascinating, as the real estate world is right here. So as far as HIREBA goes, if someone is out there, they're a real estate professional, who is the organization for? Who would you say?
It's really for independent brokers, and mainly small independent brokers. Maybe you have 5 to 10 agents, if that. Maybe just some of people are single or solo practitioners. And so we are there as a support to them.
So in a way, it sounds like if they're a member and they join your meetings or participate in the meetings, they get the feel and they get the knowledge that perhaps some of the bigger companies would while still being at a small company.
Yeah, you could almost call it a twice-a-month office meeting, because we have great speakers, a lot of education, social networking, especially when we could do more of it before COVID. And we have fabulous people who support us, our affiliates. We have title people and mortgage people, roofers, you name it, home warranty people.
Insurance companies like Stewart Insurance with John Bramlett. He's there.
Exactly. I was going to mention that. Yes, definitely. Big support to us.
Indeed. And as far as meeting, how often do you guys meet? Once a month, right?
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
And with COVID, are you meeting in person now, or are you doing the meetings online?
Well, we did all the meetings online last year when COVID started. And recently, our first meeting actually in January was live and by Zoom. So we're trying to do as many live, in-person meetings as possible. And the second one we had was Zoom. And so The ones we've had planned so far are a combination of in-person and Zoom meetings.
So for upcoming meetings right now, when would your first in-person meeting be coming up?
Let's see. The second, the fourth Wednesday of February.
And that'll be live?
It'll be live, and
Wow.
it's a class. And it's being taught by Kerry Cox, and he is going to talk to us about reverse mortgages.
A great subject. Also, as far as we're going to be talking mortgages this time around, what are some of the other things that we could find if we want to hear some of the great speakers at the HAREBA meetings?
Our first speaker was Dawn Moore with Stewart Title, and she talked to us about the at least 18 changes to the 1-to-4 family contract that we need to know, because that's coming right up this spring, that we're going to have to start using the new contract and all the various addendums that they're going to have. Then the second meeting we had was all totally Zoom, and it was Amber Burton from the Houston Association of Realtors, and she's the governmental affairs director. And we had her because the state legislature's in session, and you know what that means, usually after Realtors for Money. So we wanted to see what bills were coming that she knew of, what bills were coming before the state legislature and what we need to be looking for.
Let's give people an idea as far as being in the real estate profession. How many years have you been in the real estate profession in Houston?
Since 1985, whatever that is, 35 years?
There you go.
Something like that.
So
I started when I was only 10.
And it made me think, yes, indeed. It made me think about, as you're talking about legislation and contract changes, think about, 35 years. Think of all the changes
Wow.
you've been through. We didn't even the internet wasn't around back
That's
then.
true.
So
That's true.
It's fascinating as you look at real estate. Some of the changes, incredible.
Some of the changes, and I have to say something about TREPAC, which is our Texas Real Estate Political Action Committee. Because of our efforts at the state legislature, when COVID hit, we were declared an essential business, which is perfect because we got to work. And so many people couldn't. So many states, real estate was totally shut down. And we got, as a matter of fact, I think that this past year was the best year that Houston's seen in real estate in a long time.
That's the reports. In fact, we
Yep.
used the term last week, a sort of a hyper market.
It was.
Just we're hearing things.
It still is.
It is. I saw something on Facebook. I don't know where it was in this area or in the outskirts of Houston somewhere, but people lining up for an unveiling of lots that would be available
Yep.
somewhere in the country. I don't know where that was, but
Yep.
so it's still pretty crazy. And on that note, as far as the real estate profession, as we're starting out the year and you're in contact with your peers and now the president of HAREBA, what are some of the things that you're talking about as far as what to expect in the next year? As far as, is it still going to be super hyper, or what are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a good question.
No one knows the answer,
No one knows
but we
the
can
answer.
speculate.
The problem right now, and it's been ongoing, it's getting worse, is that there's no inventory.
Yep.
And so when there's a house available and it's a decent house for a good price, it will have multiple offers. So we're learning how to work with multiple offers and how to shepherd those through the whole process, the whole closing process. So we're trying to do that. People are moving in droves, and so we also are trying, at least through HAREBA, trying to find out more what's going on in our whole region. One of our programs upcoming is going to be the Galveston Island Park Board. And it seems kind of crazy. Why the Park Board? Well, because people from here need to go someplace else. They want to find out what's going on in Galveston. And quite truthfully, I had no idea they had a park board, so I'm interested in this program that's coming up next month.
That sounds fascinating. As far as being the president of HAREBA, what are the things that you're doing there as the president?
Actually, because the president is, it's a great job, but we have really, really fantastic support. So I just kind of make sure everything is going along and everyone's doing their job, and they have been. And so I'm just stepping in, and I get all the glory, but I really don't do that much of the work.
You have the best job, right?
I have the
there.
best job. Yep.
We won't tell anybody.
I won't
though.
tell anybody, no.
That is awesome. I want to go back to as we're saying about the multiple offers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a great opportunity. You have been in this profession for many, many years. Have you ever seen it where there have been multiple offers like this at any other time in the last 30-some years?
No, not.
So this is a first.
Yeah, this is a first. Sometimes I get a multiple offer every now and then, but it's usually like 2, not 10 or more. So, yeah, this is a very unusual time for us.
It's fascinating.
It is. It's fascinating, and it's scary in a way, too.
Well, exactly. It is all those things, but it also makes you wonder, where do we go from here, right?
Right.
It's very, very interesting. In fact, we referenced one, a home in Austin had 90 offers on it. It was a home that was listed around $500,000, 90 some offers. So as a real estate professional, you have to help your buyers or sellers navigate such a situation. Right. And how do you know how to do that?
Experience.
There you go.
That's really the way to do it.
Well, that is very interesting. Also, let's tell people, other than being the president of HARIBA for many, many years, all these years, you have Marilyn Arndt Properties. Let's tell people about your real estate firm.
Well, I started out with a big firm in 1985, got my broker's license in 92, and then right away someone said, well, their boss was moving to town. Could I help them? And so I was in business and ran out and got business cards and just took off from there. For the most part, our business is all referral. Now I've been in business long enough that I don't make telephone calls and knock on doors, that kind of thing. It's all comes to me, but I also try to keep in contact with all of our past clients and sphere of influence.
So, and we're talking about the short inventory and those things. So if someone refers a buyer to you, or I'm a buyer and I say, Marilyn, I have X dollars I want to spend, how do you coach that buyer through the process in this situation, in this market condition? It's
really critical that they get their loan and talk to a mortgage officer right away to make sure that they are in the right price range and that they have the money for the down payment and they know that step-by-step process and have it all in hand. Then we go out and look and find the house. Then we can just step right into it without having to do all the background stuff later, which won't work in this market. You have to be prepared.
Be prepared. That is very important. So also, before we have about a minute or two left here on the segment, Marilyn, what else would you like people to know about the Houston Independent Real Estate Brokers Association, also known as HARIBA?
HARIBA.
What else would you tell people about that?
Well, I think if you're listening to this and you know of or you are an independent broker, please go to hariba.org. And you can see our programs. You can see some pictures of our past meetings. We usually have a bus trip to some interesting place every year. The Christmas party. And before COVID, we had socials, happy hours. And I think you might be interested to see what we have. It's a great website and also an opportunity to join.
So that sounds great. Again, the website is hariba.org. And as far as your company, Marilyn Arndt Properties, give us a word. What else would you like people to know about that before we close the segment?
Well, my husband's also a broker, so you get both of us. You get a nice team.
As they say, it takes teamwork to make the dream work.
It's true.
He's probably listening to the show right now, you think?
Well, probably. I hope so. He better be.
What's his name?
Ward.
Ward
Arndt.
There you go. Well, Marilyn, let's tell people how they can reach out to you if they want to buy or sell a property.
Well, you can also call me at 281-433-9113. That's my cell phone and texting.
And the number again is?
281-433-9113.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Marilyn Arndt Properties, and the president of the Houston Independent Real Estate Brokers Association. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
If you're a real estate professional, then listen closely. Cyber criminals are targeting our industry. They are impersonating real estate professionals, homebuyers, sellers, and title agents. Their goal is to gain access to your inboxes, computers, and clients so they can steal information and funds. Does your business insurance offset these risks? Not sure? Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if your business is properly insured. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.
Let's welcome to the show Robert Sakowitz. He is a Houston visionary. People know him as having the department store many years ago, and since then he has had his hand on the key economic drivers in Houston. He is the CEO of a corporation called Hazak. He is right here. Welcome back to the show, Robert.
Thank you. It's good to be back, Bill. I appreciate it.
Well, you are just one of the pillars of Houston history, Houston vision. I mean, what we see, if anyone visits Houston, anyone lives here for any length of time, they know Houston has been a product of great visionaries. You have been one. Your family has been one. And here you are today going strong with your hand on the pulse. You're going to tell us about the future. But first, let's tell people about your company, Hazak.
Hazak is a company that I formed after the closing of Sakowitz in 1990. Had been called by some people saying, you've been through all of this. We need some help. I actually called a friend of mine who was head of the bankruptcy practice at Arthur Andersen, Bob Ogle, and I said, Bob, how do you charge for this consulting stuff? Because I didn't even know. And
by the minute, right? Or the hour?
Well, no, he told me how to do it. And my first client was 2 or 3 months after we'd closed, and a fellow from Toronto, Canada, and he said, you've been through all this. We're having some major problems, and what do we do? And I asked him, do you want me to turn around the company? What's my mission? And he said, well, get us off our personal guarantees with the banks and save the family from killing each other because we're finger pointing, and it's nasty. And I was successful in doing that, and literally within a month of finishing that, got a phone call from IKEA, who wanted to know whether to close the Houston store or not. And that was my second client, and that was extremely successful. And then went on and worked with Hyder Barbuti for 5 years at Highland Village on the planning of that center. Worked on restructuring what was Town and Country Mall, and that became City Center after intense negotiations and changes. Katie Mills and Opry Mills, the Mills Corporation. And then the company segued, this company, Hazak, which started off as business strategies and marketing specifically for retail, ended up with shopping centers, and then ended up with turnarounds for assisted care living and nursing home, and then ended up with oil and gas industry things, a coffee business. It got extremely diverse. And today I work with software companies, real estate development and just various clients. I'm a business doctor. I help companies get to where they want to get to. And that sounds presumptuous. I didn't mean it quite that way, but it's very diverse practice, and it's multi-industry and actually multinational, because I spent so much time for Sakowitz and thereafter all over the world that I have these contacts and have worked with the different cultures. And the one thing I tell people that is seriously the most critical of all determinants in working with a company is culture. What is the company's culture? What's the country's culture that you're working in? And the one thing that disturbs me, and I don't want to jump ahead, but the one thing that disturbs me about the current coronavirus and working at home, and everybody says, oh, they're never going to go back and this and that. One of the things is that while we just have interims here of people who were at the office and then not going back, new people that might be coming in, without being together, they don't have a culture. They literally, it's hard to inculcate that culture. Yeah. And you need to have, speaking of real estate, you need to have those offices. Okay, spread them out.
The meetings,
okay,
the
but
offices.
You need to be able to have one-on-one communication. People get tired of Zoom meetings, and they're very, very incomplete, so to speak. And so when people say, well, it's the end of retail as we know it from the point of view of going into stores, it's the end of offices as we know them, not so fast. I don't think that's absolutely accurate.
I think that's the quote of the day, not so fast. Let's use that. In fact, I want to turn back the clock here a little bit, because you mentioned the retail experience, Sakowitz. Before the show, I was looking at some pictures of the store Sakowitz. I think you opened in 1959, and the shopping adventure of just going into a beautiful store. It was said that some people used to dress up just to go shopping. But I want to reference this, and homework for every listener. If you're a Houstonian, if you're visiting, if you're passing through, it doesn't matter. Go to YouTube. And in 2016, the title is Post Oak, A Texas Legacy. You'll see Robert on that show. He's at the 24-minute mark, but it's a 55-minute show that was on PBS years ago, 2016, but it will show you pictures of Tanglewood when it was farmland.
That's right.
Post Oak and
Post Oak
Westheimer
and
when it was just a dirt road.
My father and I sat on the corner of Post Oak and Westheimer and counted cars. That was the sophisticated marketing study of the time.
It worked.
But actually, really quickly, the company goes back to 1902 in Galveston. Wow. And then my grandfather and great uncle having started it because of the Houston Ship Channel being constructed starting in 1904, opened in 1914. That helped to make Houston, because Spindletop had hit oil and they had to ship it out somewhere or another. They also had cotton, they had rice, they had timber from East Texas. They had lots of stuff that needed to go. And of course, then and even today, 95% of everything travels by water, literally worldwide. That's a global statistic, and it's correct. And so the problem was that Galveston had these two major hurricanes, great storms. And so in 1910, we opened a little store on Main and Prairie. And then the second one came in Galveston in 1915. So my grandfather said, that's it. Houston's going to be the city of the future. And they moved everything up. And in 1917, moved to Main and Preston. And then when Jesse Jones decided he was going to end this nonsense, he called it, of the battle between he and the Sterlings. He wanted Houston to grow north-south. Sterlings wanted it to grow east and west, Main Street versus Travis. And Uncle Jesse said, okay, I'm going to end this. And he, 1929, opened the Gulf Building, and Sakowitz was the first 5 floors. And we stayed there until 51. We opened the White Marble store downtown. And then 59, we opened Post Oak and Westheimer. Right. And there was nothing there.
Well, let's go back just a second. Your grandfather, you say, in 1915, said that this is the city of the future?
That's correct.
He was right, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. It's also one of the reasons why, even though after graduating from college, I went to work on the executive training program at Macy's in New York. And really, really nicely after the 2-year program and all the rest, they said, why do you want to go back and be a big fish in a little pool when you can stay here and be a big fish in a little pool? He said, how much are you making down there? What's your family going to pay you? And I told them, and they offered me almost double. And I didn't sleep that night. I had to go back the next morning, and I went in and I said, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this, because you've totally validated me as a business person by, not related to my family and everything. But the reason why I'm going to respectfully reject that offer and go back to Houston is because I think Houston is going to be the city of the future. And New York's a really tough lady. She chews you out and spits you out, and nobody will even know you were here. Whereas I think Houston, I can do something. And literally came back, and from the year I got here, I started working with the Alley Theater and this one and that one. And it really is amazing when I look at our city and how proud I am of it.
And you mentioned the Houston Ship Channel being so influential back at the early 1900s.
Right.
It still is, isn't it?
Actually, in some ways, it's more so. As I like to say, we have at least a 3-legged stool going on a 4-legged stool. We have energy, which, of course, was built by oil and gas and petrochemicals, but is now segueing into all forms of energy. I mean, so many people don't know that Texas is probably the largest wind energy state in the country. It's huge. So energy, number 1. Medical center, number 2, which is just, the largest medical center in the world. Number 3 is the Port of Houston. We are the largest in the country in tonnage, which most people don't know. And when I look at recent, as of yesterday even, articles about the port of the twin ports of L.A. Long Beach, L.A. and Long Beach, they have over 50 vessels sitting out in the port because they can't handle this influx. And it's gone up and down and up and down with COVID. That's the reason the Panama Canal, knowing how much was going to L.A. Long Beach and that they were losing business, that's the reason they did a study. And one of my client companies is a company called Endeavor Corporation. And they did the scenario-based planning modeling for the Panama Canal Authority in order to get the funding and financing for a $5.3 billion new locks. Most people think it was just expanded. It wasn't expanded. The 4,100 what's called 20-foot equivalent units, those are containers, 4,100 maximum to a vessel. And the workhorses of the fleet are 8,000. And so they had to build something much to accommodate much larger. Well, they built this entirely new set of locks, both Pacific and Atlantic side, that now can take up to almost 15,000 containers. So they can come up from either Chile and South America or come from Asia and come directly to us. And the Port of Houston has benefited substantially from this. And so we help do scenario-based planning modeling, this company Endeavor. We help do that. I'm working with these guys, the same people. We started a company that is called Digital Documents Advisors. We presented what's called the Documents Forever, which can preserve, protect, and make accessible in blockchain all of these important documents, titles, wills, insurance policy, everything. How do I get it? What do I do? Where do I keep it? We have it accessible with a legal digital document in blockchain so that it's immutable. It can't have any kind of tampering. And we presented to the National Notary Association 2 years ago and 1 year ago. Literally, the notary associations are saying this is something, this would work. This helps. So we've been expanding that, and actually through another tweak with DDA, Digital Documents Advisors, we have something called Save My Meeting. So if you have done a Zoom meeting or if you've done a Google Meet, we can take that, anything that's a digital act, and we timestamp it, we double hash it, and we put it into a control chain of custody certificate for court approval, and it has been verified and approved by all the legal aspects of the state of Texas and North Carolina and Illinois and all other states that we've talked to, and is extremely valuable for documentation for real estate matters and for wills, trusts, everything, so that it's available and accessible and court probative 24/7, 365 from anywhere in the world.
We're talking with Robert Sakowitz. He is the CEO of Hazak Corporation. Robert, we have about a minute or so left. What else would you like people to know about what you're doing or anything else? Or are we still the city of the future?
As far as I'm concerned, we're still the city of the future, unquestionably. And what else I'd like people to know is that I love building companies. I love helping companies get from where they are now to where they want to be. And that's kind of my frame of reference as helping people, CEOs, COOs, divisional people. But I like to work with people to look at what they have and ask them, what do they want to be in the future? Where do they want to go and how? You want to start? I've worked from startups to $6 billion corporations. So it's not a matter of size or scale. I work with a lot of people.
Well, it's great to see you again. Robert, if someone wants to reach out to you, what should they do?
Well, my email is rsakowitz, RSAKOWITZ, at Hazak, HAZAK.com. Or my cell phone is 713-823-1183, and I'd be happy to talk to you about your business.
And one more time, the number is?
713-823-1183.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Hazak means be strong.
That's right. Good man. You remember, Hazak means be strong.
Thank you so much, Robert Sakowitz. Let's talk to top producing realtor Alyssa McNinch. She is with Village Property Advisors and the Bruner team. Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Here we are. Let's talk real estate. It is the city of the future, Houston, Texas, and I think it has been for many years. But let's tell people about your company, Village Property Advisors.
Well, we are the Bruner team with Village Property Advisors. We used to be RE/MAX Memorial and decided about 3 or 4 years ago that we were not going to be renewing the RE/MAX franchise. And so our broker decided to open up Village Property Advisors instead. So my parents were part of the Bruner team from the 1970s. I swore I would never go into real estate. I was an English teacher and English department chair over in Alief. And then in 2000, my dad kind of got sick, and in 2001, I got my license.
Boy, there's a lot of Houston real estate history in
Yes.
this room on this show, to say the very least. But let's tell people, first of all, we could ask everybody. We don't. There's not always time. But let's tell people it's fascinating how people get into real estate. In your case, how did you get into, of all the professions you could be in, how is it that you chose real estate?
Well, I swore I would never go into real estate because my parents were both realtors at the same time in the 1970s and 80s, and I watched them work every holiday, every weekend, and it was exhausting. Then basically I was an English department chair over in Alief. My dad had gotten sick, and my parents needed help with their practice or their
Business.
Their business.
Right.
Thank you. We really don't practice real estate, do we? Their business. And so I decided during spring break that I was going to just take some coursework and I was going to help them out. I was going to take a year off from working in Alief and I was going to help them. And I just never went back. My dad gave me some sound advice. He said, baby, he said, when you're going to get started with this, he said, you need to make a decision. He said, do you want to be a servant or do you want to be an expert? And I would have been a teacher for 10 years. And I said, well, he said, those are your two choices in real estate. And I said, I want to be an expert. He said, of course you do, baby. Of course you do. He said, I know my girl. And I said, well, what's the difference? He said, those people who are, he said, servants in this industry, he said, are going to work the luxury line. He said, they're going to, he said, kind of be at somebody's beck and call. He said they don't need somebody to go through the contracts with them. He said, and that clientele, he said, they have people who do those things for them. He said, if you're going to be an expert, he said, you're going to work at the lower level. He said, lower socioeconomic level. He said, you'll have to work harder and do more. And he said, but you'll always be an expert. He said, you'll work first-time home buyers. He said, you'll work leases. And I said, well, Daddy, I don't mind working hard. And he said, I know you don't. And I said, but I like being an expert. I said, I like knowing the information. He said, then that's where you're going to fit. And he was right. I've tried to work the more luxury line through the years. That's not necessarily my forte. I love working police officers and firefighters and teachers. I like working that clientele.
Well, you mentioned new home buyers, first-time home buyers.
First-time home buyers.
How many of them are out there now?
A lot.
And it would seem like, however many there are, it's a tougher time for the new home buyer, or the first-time home buyer, rather. It seems like because of just the demand and the inventory and other things.
We're extremely short in inventory. It is extremely competitive. And I think probably the best advice I could give for whether you're a first-time home buyer or a repeat client, basically, you need to have your ducks in a row. Just like our first guest was telling us at the beginning, is you need to have your finances in order. That is the first key. And then the second key really is shopping for a house within your budget, but also knowing if you can go above that budget, because honestly, it is very competitive, lots of multiple offer situations. And one of the things I try to do with my buyers is put them in a position of, if we're not working with an investor in particular, we're working with writing offers for an actual seller who is attached to their home. I oftentimes encourage them to write letters, the hearts and minds letters, to persuade the seller to accept my client's offer over somebody else's, to give them that leg up.
How often does that work?
Yes.
See, so you have to do something along the lines of any kind of competitive situation, even applying for a job. It's good to do something that's distinctive, where you stand out in the crowd, perhaps.
Yes. And it's important for a buyer to be able to an offer is an offer, not is an offer, and it's about numbers. However, but with so many people, A seller may really want to see that the person buying their home, they're connected to in an emotional way of they want to see that it's this young family or this young couple just starting their life. And if that buyer can write the story, it can convey that to the seller. And so it's not always about the numbers. It's about making sure that their home is going to the right seller, a right buyer after they leave it.
Well, the other thing is we think of the first-time buyer, but also many people stay in their homes 5 years, 7 years. I don't know what the number is, and some change every couple of years for whatever reason. But real estate, the mechanics of it, the dynamics are changing so fast that if I bought a home 5 years ago, I really need that real estate professional now more than ever. If I'm the first-time buyer, I need that real estate professional now more than ever because so many things have changed. We need a coach to get us through the buying or selling of the transaction, I would say.
Absolutely.
Sounds like I'm pro-realtor.
You are pro-realtor.
Yes. And
that's a great place to be.
But it's true.
Yes.
There's no doubt. So when you get somebody, let's say you have that person that's been in their home 10 years and they say, man, Alyssa, I haven't sold my home in 10 years. What should I do? Especially now at the rapid pace. What are you telling that seller right now, Alyssa?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure the house is ready. A lot of people are moving into the Houston area and they don't have time to take on project homes, fixer-uppers. So I know with HGTV, it's very popular.
And good luck finding some contractor to help you too.
Exactly. But you really need to make sure that the house is minimalized, it is cleaned up, it is presentable. And so we can market it to the best of our ability. But we're noticing that the influx of people that are coming into Houston are not looking necessarily for fixer-uppers. There are investors out there who do. Okay, so I'm not discounting them and saying there are none. But the professionals and the paraprofessionals are coming in here. They're coming to work. They have their jobs lined up, and they don't have time to take on a project home. So we need to make sure to the best of our ability that our listings are ready for those move-in buyers.
That sounds good. Also, what are some of the other things that we should be thinking about in the current real estate market? If you were to speculate, take a wild guess, how do you think the year is going to play out also? Here we are, February already. Can you imagine? What's your feel for the unfolding of 2021?
Well, the first 2 weeks of January were kind of slow, which was nice. It was a little bit of a breather.
You got to take a breather somewhere.
You got to take a breather.
A little bit.
I think it's going to be incredibly busy.
Put your seatbelt on.
Put my seatbelt on because I took 3 listings, 2 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, multiple offers on the 2 I took on Friday. I'm already getting showings on that 3rd one on Saturday. We're in a multiple offer situation on 2 of my 3 listings already.
Kind of like at the beginning of your story, you're doing a lot of work, huh?
Doing a lot of work.
I like when the real estate professional says, I got in real estate so I could have free time and a flexible schedule. That's almost a joke, huh? And a flexible schedule.
Let me see. Basically, to be a realtor is you're on when everyone else is off.
There you go.
So you're working weekends, you're working holidays, you're working evenings. But I love what I do.
And what is it you love so much about this profession?
You know what? Every transaction's different. Every person is different. And I like working with people.
There you go.
I truly love working
never
with
bored,
people.
Is it?
It is never boring.
That is awesome. Before we close the segment, Alyssa McNinch, what else would you like people to know?
Well, I've been in business 20 years. I love what I do. I started off with the Tropical Storm Allison in 2001. I got my license the day Tropical Storm Allison hit the city, and I had to learn how to sell real estate in a flooded home market. So that was always exciting.
There you go.
Kind of learned that way. But I love what I do, and my parents gave me a good footwork, a good groundwork for being the best person I could be.
There you go. No doubt about it. Alyssa McNinch. Alyssa, how can people reach you?
Cell phone is probably the best way, is 832-746-7911. And that's 832, and it spells SHOP, S-H-O-P, 911.
Oh, right quick. I'm thinking, how many times are you serving buyers here lately? Let's say in the last 20 transactions, how many have been from out of state? Just curious. Any? Last 20? Last 50?
You know what? Not as many. Most of my clientele is referral-based at this point. But if you drive around the city, you will see a lot of license plates that are not from Texas.
They're on their way.
They're on their way.
You can call Alyssa at 832-746-7911. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
In today's litigious society, it is imperative to have the proper insurance to offset the many risks facing your business, especially if you're a real estate broker. Your errors and omissions and cyber liability insurance can help limit the threat of these risks if you know what to look for. Not sure if your insurance addresses the risks facing your business? Contact Stewart Insurance to be confident your brokerage can withstand these risks. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. StewartInsurance.com. That's StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.
Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance, with a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers. Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. Once again, here he is, John Bramlett with Stewart Insurance, helping people all the time with their insurance needs and providing super insurance content on this show.
Thank you, Bill. Nice to be with you as always.
I'm getting pumped up about insurance again.
I am too. Hey, so we're already in February. We got to keep talking.
That is correct. So let's tell people, here we are once again, John, a fascinating topic. Insurance is so important. It's one of the pillars of our financial portfolios, managing the risks. So whatever dollars we have and investments we have are protected. What do we have today?
Well, I was visiting with a prospective client the other day that's based in Missouri, and we were just talking about insurance in general and doing my discovery call to find out what their challenges were and what concerns they might have. And we were talking a little bit about cyber insurance, and we got on the topic of cyber protection notice, and it's something that his firm uses, and it is we've talked often about ways to minimize the threats out there, and a cyber protection notice is one of those tools that a real estate broker can implement really easily that can help minimize that risk, or at least protect you and your firm from the risk of cyber fraudsters. And basically, it's a simple document. You can create it yourself. You can work with an attorney. If your local real estate association, like an HAR, might have one that you can utilize. But basically, it does a couple things. It reminds the buyer and the seller of the threats of cyber criminals, that we're dealing with a lot of money and we're dealing with a lot of data, both are which valuable to them.
Big targets for the cyber criminals.
Absolutely. We are a very big target because of the data we carry, and because of the money that we transfer. So it reminds them of that it could be your email hacked. It could be somebody else's email hacked in the transaction that comes across and appears to be valid. So those are the kinds of things to look at. So this cyber protection notice ought to remind people about what the threats are. So just as a reminder, and then some key facts that they can put into place so that they minimize that risk. So if you receive an email that's talking about the transaction, don't respond to it. Call and confirm it, but don't use the phone number or the contact information on the email. Use it from the origination document. Use the contact information from their website. If they've given you a business card, use that contact information to confirm the information, because you don't know potentially whose site has been hacked. But it sets up some procedures and guidelines that we're going to follow. Look, we're not going to send you an email telling you that the wire transactions have changed direction. We're going to call you. So you set up that, and then at the bottom you have the buyer and or seller sign. So they've acknowledged that I understand how you do business. This is how we're going to do business in this transaction, and we're going to do business in this transaction this way because it's protecting you.
You said many important things there. The big word that I got is remind, and that is that we talk about how busy. I don't know how many shows we haven't talked about how busy and brisk the real estate market is, but when we're in that busy mode as real estate professionals, and especially we're prospering, our clients are prospering, we're busy, we forget certain basics. It's good to be reminded about cyber bullies and cyber criminals out there. It's also going back to the origin of our segment here every week. It's good to be reminded of the importance of insurance and all the nuances. So being reminded along the way is a key for success, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, just think about what Marilyn and Alyssa both said, that inventory in Houston is at about a month's level. The gentleman that I was referring to in Missouri, they're the same way, about a month's level.
That's right.
So you know, what did Alyssa say? She added 2 listings on Saturday of last week and already has people showing an interest in it. So you're right. You do get busy. And, hey, the email's from Bill Napick. I know Bill. That looks like Bill's signature, so I'm going to respond. And it wasn't Bill. Or, you know, it came from Kurt. Looked like it came from Kurt at Stewart Title, but it wasn't from Kurt. But so that, again, that's taking a step back, following your processes and procedures that we know that more and more firms are establishing, and just confirming it, but confirm it using a number that you know that's valid or contact information that you know is valid.
You said this on a previous show. In fact, last week I got an email from my superior saying, "Hey, Bill, click on this link to review this proposal." I'm like, wait a minute. He never asked me to click on anything. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, Larry, is this from you?" He says, "No, it's a scam." So we have to always, because they come in the cloak of familiarity.
Absolutely.
Our friends, our boss, our associates, people we're interested in. I mean, they are super tricky. We have to be on guard all the time.
Absolutely. You know, the one that you received is kind of one of the trends that's happening now. It's from your boss, the CFO. You know, "Hey, Bill, hey, John, we need to send this data on these 4 companies or these 3 clients to the organization. Can you take care of that for me?"
Well, I want to say this. At Stewart Insurance, Stewart Title, Stewart Guarantee Company, we are on top of it. We have top pros helping us. We're improving. So when we do business with our clients, they're protected. We're protected internally because these guys are always upgrading our security measures as we go along, sometimes a couple times a month. So we're very fortunate at Stewart to have the protection we do and to have people on top of it, not just us, but also for our customers.
Absolutely. No, we are. You're correct. Gennady and his team at Stewart Insurance are fantastic, and they're always providing us updates, are always providing improvements, they're always providing counsel.
That's right.
And they test us.
That's right.
They test us. So it's taken very seriously, both with Stewart Insurance and Stewart Title.
Makes me wonder about some of the other companies, but we won't go into that. In the meantime, what are some of the other things that we think about? Here we are at the beginning of the year. I mean, I still think it's the beginning of the year. I thought about that in terms of planning in November and December 2021. January was a big get-ready month. But February still is, and the excitement that looms ahead for us all it's just very exciting this year. And insurance, hey, it's still to get that new insurance policy. Sometimes it's a good time if you have a little lull in the excitement, like one of our guests was saying, "Oh, well, the first week was a little slow." Well, you know, when you have a little bit of a lull, or you hear this segment, or you think about it, it might be time to take a look at your policy, even though it's not up for renewal.
Well, but I think you're right, Bill. It's at least important to know when it's up for renewal. So
that's important.
Yeah,
and then, know who you have as your insurance company.
Yeah, well, but it's true. When is it up for renewal? Right. Who is my insurance partner? So let's say that it was in the middle of the summer, then you might set a tickler for yourself that I want to have a conversation 90 days out, or begin having that conversation 90 days out or 60 days out with my insurance advisor to talk about, are there any changes? We've talked up, you can do the same thing on your home policy, on your auto policy. What's changed? And if there have been some things that have been significant in changes, then make sure you share those with your insurance partner, but you do so early enough that you've got together, y'all can work and find some flexibility to determine if we do need to change the plan, what's the best way to go about that.
And it's not always about having the lowest price on your policy. It's about being properly insured at a great price. But I will tell you this, one of the joys in life is once you review that policy and you know that you're getting the insurance you need, the risk that you're willing to handle, and you save a few bucks, that's one of the joys in life, to save a few bucks on your insurance policy.
Well, absolutely. And I worked with a client recently on, they had a general liabilities policy, and the company that we had placed them with had decided that they did not want to be in that segment of the business anymore. So we went and looked for some additional coverage. And the coverage that I was finding was matching what they previously had, which was a very robust policy, perfect for what their needs were, but the premiums were significantly higher. So we spent the time and worked with the client and were able to find a premium that met their financial needs, but the policy still had the coverage that they worked for. But it's just willing on both parties, both the insurance partner and the client, to take the time, invest the time, talk about what your business is like, what your needs are, to make sure that you are that properly insured client.
I'm thinking about Robert Sakowitz, as he said he was the business doctor, talking about diagnosing a situation, diagnose your insurance needs, and then the plan of action.
Absolutely. Our president, Tom Carpentier, talks about having a servant heart and be a servant leader, being a teacher. Alyssa had been a teacher prior to being in the real estate business, and I'm sure that ability to convey information has helped her be successful. You heard Marilyn and how bright and articulate she is, and how she knows her business. That ability for her to teach and help her clients is what's made them successful, and what has helped their clients have a successful relationship. And that's what we strive to do as well.
And speaking of Hariba, you are part of the team at Hariba as far as I forget the exact title. I was on the website.
Yeah, so I'm on the board of directors, and I'm responsible for the affiliate members. So an affiliate member are organizations that would support the real estate broker. So insurance companies, title agencies, inspectors, appraisers, organizations like that. Before we close the segment, John, what else should people know? If they want to be properly insured, then give us a call. Who doesn't? Absolutely. I mean, we talked about a new plan that's almost as nice as the smell of a new car. Yes. They can reach us at 866-798-2827, 866-798-2827. They can email us, stewartinsurance@stewart.com. That's stewartinsurance@stewart.com, and learn more about us at stewartinsurance.com. That's right. And since it's February, one more time on the number. 866-798-2827. And the Hariba website is? Hariba.org, HIREBA.org. And by the way, as you know, I got to see the new Stewart Insurance corporate office last week, and the one and only Tom Carpentier leading the company in a magnificent way, maybe more magnificent now that you're at the new corporate office. Yes, we were excited. I got to see it the same day that you did. So it was like we were on the tour. Okay, next. Yes. Yeah, we were both. You had the tour before I did. Well, I didn't get the tour. I did get to see Tom in his office, but outside of that, I'll have to go back for more. Thank you all for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. On behalf of John Bramlett, myself, Larry Warren, Tom Carpentier, and all the greats at our company, we are there to serve you with your title needs, with your insurance needs. We're there to be the most trusted name in real estate and the most admired company. We're doing it every week, 24/7. Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. You can hear past shows at stewart.com/Houston. That's right, stewart.com/Houston. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, John. You're welcome, Bill. Have a good day.
If you're a real estate professional, then listen closely. Cyber criminals are targeting our industry. They are impersonating real estate professionals, homebuyers, sellers, and title agents. Their goal is to gain access to your inboxes, computers, and clients so they can steal information and funds. Does your business insurance offset these risks? Not sure? Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if your business is properly insured. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. 866-798-2827.